As we say goodbye to our friends Linda and Svein Olaf, we embark on a new adventure and get closer to the ice than we had wished for. It is a grey and cold but dry morning as we decide to venture deeper into Kongsfjorden and to take a closer look at Kronebreen, a glacier that ends on the water at the head of the fjord. We expect to encounter some ice, so all eyes are on deck. On our way up the fjord, we indeed pass many pieces of ice that broke off the glacier and that are now drifting down the fjord, driven by wind and the faint current caused by the fresh water discharged by the melting glaciers. We ask ourselves, how close can we safely approach? As the glacier retreats, it exposes new seabed beneath, much of it still uncharted. We monitor the depth sounder carefully as we edge forward, aware that conditions can change quickly. At irregular intervals and often without warning, smaller and larger sections of ice break from a glacier front in a process known as calving. The collapse can generate substantial waves, and submerged ice may resurface far from the point where it entered the water. We believe that Kronebreen's relatively low and even profile reduces some of that risk, yet the uncertainty remains. Eventually, as the concentration of drifting ice increases, we decide to turn back. Venturing right up to a glacier's face to collect fresh ice for a gin and tonic, as others have done, lies beyond our margin of comfort.
So over here there is a little shallows, and these icebergs here are actually stranded. They don't move. They have to lose some weight first, I think, before they can get across. 90% is under the water, 10% is above the water. Guessing from that height, I would say that's probably about 2 to 3 meters. That's maybe 25 meters down, and that's why they're stranded here.
Despite the ice drifting down the fjord, we decide to drop the anchor in the perceived safety of a small bay called Peirsonhamna, just across the fjord from Ny Ålesund.
Okay, Anton, I'm turning around in the wind and then we let it down, huh?
Okay, how many meters are we?
We're in 5.5 meters. So can you let me out 30 to start with, huh?
It's 10 minutes to 10 in the evening, and the wind forecast was a bit variable, so mostly from the east but a short stint on south. Now it has set into south, and our problem is that we are now being confronted with these icebergs here. So here's one of them. He comes close and closer. Maybe we're lucky and he goes on the other side, passes by. I'm ready here to push it away when it then comes. Over there ahead of us there's another one coming, and I think that's the two bigger ones. We have to be a bit careful. There is some rain and drizzle just pulling in, and there's a bit of rain, so
that will make the winds a bit less predictable. That's probably why they changed so much. Hopefully maybe after that has passed through, it will become more normal and predictable again. And then there's this situation up here. They will be here soon as well, I think. So yeah, not going to be boring. So that one there has definitely passed, unless the wind turns to north, which I would not exclude at the moment. It's been all over the place. That should be safe, and we'll probably be beached quite soon, and we will have a falling tide soon as well. So I think that's no longer a concern to us. On the other hand, we still have this friend here, and then there's two smaller ones slightly aside. That's coming straight at us at the moment, and that's slightly bigger as well, so I think I'll stay up, be ready to push it. I didn't have to fend him off. He went past us, but that's the one that was in front of us just about half an hour ago. Well, I hope it hasn't beached right there, because that's probably within our swing circle. I hope it still moves a bit. Any signs of bears?
Gliding ashore by dinghy towards the small pebble beach at Peirsonhamna, Polaris rests quietly at anchor. Behind us, a modern presence in a landscape shaped by past ambition. We step carefully onto land and take in the stillness of the bay.
I was lost in a city dream, and
From the water's edge, we begin walking up the narrow path that leads across the tundra, mindful of the fragile ground beneath our boots. As we climb the gentle slope, two weather-beaten cabins come into view, facing the sea.
I'm just walking up the hill here because it's not visible what's behind, and because a couple of days they had a mommy bear with two pups leaving Ny Ålesund and swimming across this island. It may well be that we bump into them. And here's a reindeer. Look at that.
I hope you'll always be around, even if I fail. You are like a summer breeze that I must inhale. Is it possible for us?
No bear or the reindeer.
Turning back towards the site, we check out the two cabins that are still used by the Sysselmann today. Camp Mansfield is still visible, a direct link to British prospector Ernest Mansfield and the Northern Exploration Company, who established this marble mining settlement Ny Ålesund in 1911. 70 men once lived and worked here, cutting and hauling marble. We walk around between the rusty cranes, the steam-driven locomobile and the skeletal remains of a railway emerging from the tundra. The abandoned machinery forms a stark industrial tableau against the snow-dusted peaks of Kongsfjorden, and we pause to consider the incredible effort required to transport such heavy equipment to this remote Arctic shore. Continuing to explore, we imagine the optimism that must have filled this place when the first blocks of marble were quarried. But the shipment of marble sent south to London crumbled during transport. Initially, the frost was blamed. but later research revealed bad quality, hidden cracks within the marble as the true cause. Mismanagement and a post-World War I market collapse ultimately brought the venture to an end within a decade. Most of the buildings were dismantled and relocated to Ny Ålesund. Today, only the 2 cabins and the rusting machinery remain.
Loving you has never felt right.
On our way back to Polaris, we encounter this small block of ice drifting in the bay. It is hardly visible, even in this flat, calm water. How would it feel hitting one of these with a boat? Our dinghy has a solid aluminium bottom, and we are rarely moving as we bump into it. I don't want to imagine hitting one of these with Polaris at cruising speed.
Sometimes, even up here in Svalbard, the sun shines. But it's a rare moment so far. She's out now, so have a look. Transit.
But before we go through the shallow transit, let's go back a few days to Ny Ålesund.
And it's even more beautiful in the winter when everything
From the
is
harbour,
white.
we walked up the dusty road to the houses of Ny Ålesund. Our friend Linda leads us through the settlement. She worked here for a few months in the past and knows the rhythm of daily life in this remote place intimately. The colourful buildings are scattered on the flat ground, with mountains and glacier fronts rising beyond. Ny Ålesund began as a coal mining town in 1917. The Kings Bay Company owned the mine and still owns the settlement today, running the power plant, the harbour and all main services. Mining ended decades ago, but the company remains the backbone of this remote community. As we walk, Linda tells us about her life when she used to work here. Today, Ny Ålesund is an international research station. Norway hosts the settlement, and research teams come from countries such as Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Italy, the Netherlands, India, Japan, South Korea, and even China. Scientists study the Arctic climate, glaciers, sea ice, ocean systems, air chemistry, and wildlife. In winter, about 30 to 40 people stay here. In summer, the number rises to more than 100 as research teams arrive for field work during the light season. Linda tells us about the close-knit community the people here form, despite their different origins and cultures. They share a canteen, a small shop and a small pub with a notorious reputation. The rule is that what happens in the pub stays in the pub, and mobile phones are not allowed in there. Actually, due to the sensitive research projects that are run here, all visitors to Ny Ålesund must switch off their Wi-Fi functions on their mobile phones. We visit the historic telegraph station, once a key link to the outside world. It stands as a reminder of the early days when communication from this far north was rare and precious. Not far away, in front of the distinctive blue house, stands a statue of Norwegian explorer and national hero Roald Amundsen. From here, in 1926, the airship Norge began its flight across the North Pole. Just a few hundred meters outside of the settlement, the 35-meter high mooring pylon for this massive airship still stands today. Being here, we sensed how exploration and science meet in this small Arctic settlement. Thank you, Linda, for sharing your stories with us.
No, she was swimming to that island, and she came over and went straight under the mountains, and some of our friends was on the top to ski down, and they didn't see, so we had to call them up there to get them inside.
What would round such a day off better than a good old Swiss cheese fondue aboard Polaris?
What does she need?
But now, back to our transit.
Now we're going on the transit. Which should bring us across these shallows here.
Good afternoon, it's Sunday, the 13th of June. A good hour ago we left the port of Longyearbyen. We are heading into Fjorden and into Tempelfjorden, which is one of the arms on the back. And there's an anchorage called Bionahamna, which we're gonna check out for the rest of the afternoon and the night. There's not a lot of wind, actually none. The sea state is very flat. It's overcast, sun presses through slightly, and we're just having a motor up to that anchorage to check it out and to see what there is. We drop anchor in Bionahamna, well protected from the waves behind the glacial moraine spit under the majestic formations of the Temple Mountain. Its sedimentary rock formations indeed resemble the architecture of a classical temple, hence its name. After a gusty night, with some re-anchoring, we now leave this beautiful area here, the beautiful anchorage here in Bionahamna. This is just at the Temple Mountain. It's very spectacular formations, and it's a very nice anchorage here actually. Shallow, good holding. It was just very gusty. We had from 0 to almost 30 knots in 5 seconds last night and during almost the whole night, which made it a bit uncomfortable. But the second time we had a slightly different position where the anchor or where the boat didn't swing into the shallows, and that was much better then.
So we're on the way to these glaciers on the bottom of Tempelfjorden.
The one on the right hand side is called the Van Post glacier, and the one on the left hand side that goes into the water is called the Kronebreen. So these are the two here. As the conditions were calm and the ice situation under control, we decided to lower Fred, our dinghy, into the water to get some pictures of Polaris in front of these majestic glaciers. Well, would have looked better with the sails up in some wind, but yet again the latter was absent. And even if this looked calm and peaceful, we could hear the glacier calving nearby.
So this was amazing.
Was it?
Yes, it was. It's a very calm day.
Yeah, but still there was some glacier ice breaking off. I didn't notice
Yes,
that.
no, it was. You could hear the rumbling, the growling of the glacier.
Next time, we say goodbye to Svalbard. 5 weeks after leaving Tromsø, we begin the long sail south, 560 nautical miles across the northern Norwegian Sea back to Tromsø. As the high Arctic slowly disappears behind us, we look back on the journey, the highs, the challenges and the moments we will never forget. What did we learn? And would we do it again? Stay tuned.
It's okay, but I've eaten much better on this trip than this.